All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to an encore presentation of Google Classroom for Remote Success. Today's session is about using your Google Classroom for remote learning, different options, different tips and tricks, different things you can do. If you would like to receive a copy of the resources following the webinar, I ask that you please put your email address in the chat box. This way we have a contact information for you. We will also be putting the link directly in the chat box for you. So let me do that right now before we get started. So this bit.ly that I just linked, that is going to have all of the resources for every webinar that Visual Sound has been offering. So my name is Corey Freed. I am the educational consultant for Visual Sound. I had about 10 years in the classroom before I left this year. I am a Google for Education certified trainer. I am a Google for Education certified innovator. So I hope that I know what I'm talking about. If you have any questions, please feel free to come off of mute or put them in the chat box. Either one does work. I am also going to be coming out of this slideshow at one point so that I can show you in real time some samples of Google Classroom from both the teacher and the student perspective. This way you can see what your students see, because I know that's something that we don't often get in the classroom. So I want to start with a small disclaimer that some school districts automate features from the back end. So certain things that I'm going to be talking about, you may or may not be able to do depending on your school district. So the first thing we're going to talk about is setting up your classroom. Now, let me go backwards for 1 second to show you this piece first. When you are adding students to your classroom, remember I just mentioned that school districts sometimes do stuff from the back end. This right here is one of those things I was referring to. Depending on what student information system your school uses, it is possible that your administration has already set up your Google Classrooms for you. If this is the case, then you will not have to do anything to set up your original classes. So going back to that other slide, if you do have to set up your classes, what you're going to do is when you go to classroom.google.com, you will see on the top right next to your icon a little plus sign. The plus sign gives you two options: join a class or create a class. As a teacher, you are going to create the class. If you were joining someone else's class, or perhaps your principal wants to do a staff-wide Google Classroom to turn out materials, you would probably be going to the join class the way that your students do. When you create a class, it is required that you put a class name. However, it is not required that you put any other information. I recommend always putting the section number, because this allows you in your Google Classroom homepage to differentiate between two classrooms of the same name. And it would also give you the ability to, when you go into your Google Drive, the folders will also be numbered. So that helps you to differentiate between multiple classes with the same name. A new feature that has just started coming out in the last few days is Google Meet is now part of Google Classroom. So I will again show you this. It is a feature that your school may or may not have turned on for you. It is a feature that you may or may not want to turn on for your students. It is a preference. It is something that we will just talk about what it is and how it works. So that would be in the class settings, and I will show you where that is. However, it will also be next to your icon. It will look like a little picture of a gear. So as I was saying, when you're adding students to your classroom, method number one is that your school district does it for you and you have nothing to do as the teacher. It's set, you're ready to go. Method two is that your students will manually add themselves to your class. To do this, after you create your class, you will see there is a class code listed. If you were presenting this to your students in real time and you click on this little rectangle right here, it will make it very big so that that number and code can easily be seen by your students from the back of the classroom. You can also just copy and paste it to put into an email or however else you are communicating with your students right now. The third method is a little more time consuming on the teacher's part, but it is probably the easiest for you as a teacher to make sure that no one mistyped the code. And that is for you as the teacher to manually enter every student. If your school district does have the contact list open, as you start to type a student's name, they will populate the email addresses. Because I know some school districts, the email addresses are random patterns of numbers. So that is something you can do to make it easier, is to just type in their name and it would populate. And then you would go down here to where it says invite. And your students will get an email saying you were invited to the class. The next time the students log into Classroom, they will just see an option that says join. That's all they have to do is click join and they are automatically enrolled in your class. So how do you post information and assignments for your students? There's two separate feeds that you can do this on. The stream is a reverse chronological list of everything you have posted on Google Classroom. You can post announcements directly onto the stream and they will stay on the top until the next thing you post. Anything that you want to post that has a due date or an assignment attached to it, you're going to want to go into the classroom or the classwork. In the classwork, this is where you can create new assignments and you can classify what type of assignment it is. You could also put things into a topic, and this will help you and your students sort through materials. I recommend using the topics because, like I said, it helps organize and it makes things easier. When you are physically in the classroom with your students, your topics might be classwork, homework, do nows, however you organize it. From a remote position, you might want to use the topics as something else. For example, if you are an ELA teacher and you're doing a Shakespeare unit, you might have a topic of Romeo and Juliet. You might have a topic of Hamlet. This way the students know, oh, I need to go to the Romeo and Juliet assignments. They can go on their side. They will see the topics listed. And when they click on Romeo and Juliet, it will bring up all the materials and assignments related to that topic. So when you are attaching assignments to classwork, this is something that is really important because a lot of teachers have been emailing me that they're giving their students assignments and the students can't function on them. The students can't do anything. So one of the tips that I'm going to give you is this slide right here. Before you attach files, think of the end goal. So if you want it to be a view-only document, if you're, for example, giving your students a PDF of the textbook, you don't need to make multiple copies for every student. You can make one copy and just click view. All your students will have access to that document, but they can't edit it, they can't delete it, they can't do anything to it other than look at it. If you want to do small group projects or you want the entire class to be functioning on the project, then you want to do a copy for each group. To do this, you would go into your Google Drive and you would just right click, make a copy. Every group should have their own copy before you attach it to the Google assignment. When you attach it, you will just mark the selection that says students can edit file. Any student that has that link can now edit the file. So this is why I said you want a copy for each class individually. Because let's say, for example, you have 3 Biology 101 classes and you make one copy of the document. All 3 classes are working on that same document. If you have one for each class will have their own document. The last option is file for students that are working individually. You as the teacher only need one copy because you create the template, the original. In Google Classroom, you would select the option that says make a copy for each student. And now your students, when they open the file that first time in Google Classroom, it will actually create a copy for them automatically. So every single one of your students, whether you have 5 students or 900 students, and I do know some librarians that have 900 students in their class, so it is possible, but every student will get their own copy of the document. The other thing I want to point out, and I will be showing you something with PDFs in a moment, is if you plan to have students editing your files at all, make sure it is a Google file. Try not to give them a Word document, a PDF, or anything else like that, because they won't be as easy to edit, and it will cause frustration for both the students and for you. All right, so before I go into showing you those file types, I want to show you some options when you are making an assignment. So the option number 1 is which class do you want to post to? As I said, if you have multiple classes that are, for example, Biology 101, then you can pull down this menu and select all the sections that you want that assignment going to. This will help to reduce how many times you have to retype the same thing. If you want to do a small group project, you can only do one class at a time, but you can pull down the menu and select which students in the class are going to gain that access. A couple things with grading. You have your point value for the specific assignment. You have the ability to attach a rubric. And then the other thing I want to point out is this originality report, because it's very important. You can only use this 3 times per class. Now, the originality report is a really cool feature that Google has enlisted to help prevent plagiarism. When you select that originality report, it will actually compare what your students turn into you to documents that are all over the internet. This allows you to see if they're plagiarizing without having to actually go search every single sentence that sounds a little wonky. Again, if you hit that learn more, it does only allow you to do it 3 times per class. So you don't want to do this on every assignment, just the major assignments. Here is where you would pull down for your topic. And when you pull down the due date, you actually do have an option to put a due time as well. This is something that I recommend with the remote learning, because if you do not put a time, it is going to just default to midnight. So if you want your students to be turning it in by example 4 p.m., make sure you do select a due time. All right. So some tips and tricks when you're making assignments. Really important to number your assignments. This is going to help with the Google Drive folder that is automatically created when you create a Google Classroom. Every time you make an assignment, a new folder is made in Google Drive that is named with the assignment's name. Now, if you have multiple assignments, for example, called Due Now, all of those Due Nows are going to be in a folder called Due Now. You will actually see, for example, 20 folders called Due Now. You won't be able to differentiate which Due Now is which. But if you number the files as you are creating the assignments, the files will have the number in the name. So you might have 001 Due Now, 002 Due Now. And this kind of helps you to be able to quickly go back through the drive and find those files. The reason we recommend 3 digits is because if you think of alphabetizing, when you alphabetize numbers, if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you get to the number 10, 10 will actually go between 1 and 2. But if you start with the 3 digits, it will stay in order. The reason we say 3 digits is because most teachers will not go over 999 assignments in one day or in 1 year, but they might go over 100. The next tip is to use topics to tag your subjects, your categories, or however else you want to use those topics. The tags, like I said, the topics really do help to organize and they help keep everyone on task. So the last piece of advice I have for a tip is taking daily attendance while doing remote learning. If you want your students to log in every single day, then I recommend creating an assignment, and you can pre-schedule these with a posting time and a end time. So when you do these daily attendances, you can just ask a single multiple choice question, are you here? And the students would check the box. Now, when I was in the classroom last year, I actually did my do nows like this for my daily announcements. And I was teaching computer science. So what I did was I told the students that they were checking the box that they read the announcements. This way, at the end of the year, when the kids said, I didn't know we had a test on that day, I could say, well, you checked that you read the announcements. And I used it as a real life lesson, explaining to the students the same way when you get a new iPhone and you click the box that says, I read the terms of service. If they click that they read the announcements, even if they didn't read it, they're responsible for it. So that was kind of like that real world lesson that I used. Obviously, just to use it for attendance, it's a little bit different. So as I said, you can post it in the morning with a pre-scheduled posting time, and then you could set a due time. So if you want to make sure your students are logging in between 8 and 4, then you can set it to automatically post at 8, and at 4 o'clock, anyone who posted at, for example, 4:01, it would actually tell you as the teacher that they were late. So that's a really nice feature with the time stamping, because they can't claim they turned it in on time. Even if it's 1 minute late, you as the teacher will see it marked red with the word late. That doesn't mean you have to penalize them for the score, but it does just make it easy for you to see what time they're turning stuff in. All right, so now I'm going to talk about the little workaround I told you about for PDFs and stuff, because as I said, the only documents that students can edit are Google Documents. So the best workaround that has been found so far by teachers on social media is to convert the PDF to an image file. The reason I say this is the best is because while you can go on Google and type in PDF converters, they're hit or miss. And oftentimes the document will not look anything like the original PDF. So if you take a screenshot of a PDF, and depending on if you have a Mac, a Chromebook, or a PC, screenshots are slightly different. But if you take a screenshot, then you can import it as the background of a Google slide. And the reason I say to put it as a background is what I'm going to show you in that next tab, or in the next slide. So you would click background on top of Google Slide, and then instead of choosing a color, you would choose an image. Now, my PDF is flush on the document. Because my PDF is on the background, if I come out of full view so that you're seeing it as an editable document, I cannot move this background. It will not move. The only thing that will move is my text box where I wrote my answer, or where I typed my name. Well, I didn't type my name, I typed sample PDF. But those are the only things that will move. The background is stuck there. It's like glued on. So your students can't accidentally move the questions and then have, like, for example, have their answer sitting like over here because the whole packet was moved down. So that is the workaround to edit a PDF. Something that some teachers for younger students have been doing, because obviously older students should know how to enter text boxes by themselves. Younger student teachers are creating the text box, and they'll put one under each question, for example, and just write type answer here. And then the kids would just come in and click on that. And then to make it easy, all you would have to do is copy and paste, and then just put one underneath each question. So you don't have to type out type answer here every time. But that is a little trick. So that way, for those younger students that don't know how to create a text box easily, you can just have that there for them and it's ready to go. All right, so back to full screen, make it a little easier to see. I forgot that was the last slide. Now I'm going to take you into actual Google Classroom. So that is the end of the presentation, but that is not the end of today's workshop. I am now going to take you into an actual view of both a teacher view and a student view of the same Google Classroom. So to show you right now, I have two windows that are side by side. The window that has the grade option on the menu is the teacher menu. As you can see, the student does not have the gradebook. Gradebook is something that Google added within the last year. And this is where you as the teacher can see every student. Notice I only have one student in the class and it's myself. But this is where the teacher can see every student and every assignment all at one view. That's the reason why your students won't have that, because they obviously don't need to see their classmates' grades. Student, if they go into classwork, they can see their own grades because they will know if they click view your work. Here they can see, oh, the teacher graded this assignment. Oh, the teacher marked this as done, but there was no grade. Oh, look, I'm missing this assignment. I better go back and do it. So that's the student view of classwork. The teacher view of classwork is just the list. They don't have that checklist of what have I done so far. So again, that's why I kind of wanted to open this up with both the student and teacher next to each other, because I want you to see the differences. All right, I just saw somebody post the question, so let me open my chat box for a second. Is there a way that a teacher can turn in assignments for a student? For example, the student shares a file with the teacher, but doesn't use the turn in. Excellent question. So it is actually possible. As soon as the student attaches something to the assignment, the teacher will see it. The teacher can't click the turn in option, but the teacher can edit the file. They can put comments on it. They can grade it. There are plenty of times where I would have students doing the work for like the past week on an assignment. it was due on Friday. I go to start grading things on Saturday and it wasn't turned in, but it was completely done. I can still leave them a comment, grade the assignment, and click return. Now the student can't actually turn it in because it's been returned to them, but they still get a grade and I don't mark it late. Well, again, that's a personal preference as the teacher. I never marked it late, but yes, you can see the student's work even if they don't click the turn in button. The only assignments that you wouldn't be able to do that for is, as I said, with like the attendance. This right here was a single question. I'm here. Click the bubble, hit turn in. Obviously, if they didn't click the bubble and turn in, they didn't technically do the assignment. But if it was an assignment with for example, a Google Doc. So if I go down, I'm going to just pick another random assignment. So here's one I called demo assignment. In this case, this kid didn't turn anything in, but if the student here went to create a new document and they created something in their Google Classroom, when I, as the teacher, go to that same assignment, if I click view assignment and I click on that student's name, I will see that they had that file there. So I am able to access the files even if the student didn't hit turn in. Does that answer your question, Doug? While I'm on this screen, I also want to just show you the nice thing of Google Classroom is you can actually grade everything within the same window. So if I was grading a student's work right now, I would be able to leave them comments on the side of their actual document. I could also, if you see here, it says comment bank. If you are the type of teacher that leaves the same comments every time, you can add them to a bank. And then instead of having to type it for every student, you can just click add to bank and you can just select a topic you already had. So if you might just want to say, check your grammar, or did you spell this correctly? What source did you use? Like those random comments that you tend to repeat over and over again, you can create a bank so that all you would have to do is click on it and it would post it to the students. So again, you are able to grade stuff directly in there. So you can put the grade, you could add a private comment to the students, and then once you hit the grade and hit post, you can click return and the student will see that you graded their assignment. So that is a really nice feature of grading stuff in Google Classroom. Depending on your school district, if you have that SIS, you may have your grades automatically transfer to your official grade book. If not, you would still have to manually convert those grades over. I did mention scheduling posts for future posting. So if you go here to create, for example, a question for attendance, and you were to just do that, like I said, the really quick I'm here option, when you click due date, after you pick a date, it gives you the option for time. And then up here where it says ask, instead of clicking ask, you're going to want to click the arrow to the right. And this is where you can schedule it to post at a later time. So if I wanted to post this tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., I can do that. Now, in my copy, you're going to see that it says attendance 414 scheduled for tomorrow. And yes, I know that 414 is today. I did mess that up when I scheduled today's for tomorrow. But you'll see it says scheduled for tomorrow. If I go back to my students view, they are not going to see that at all until tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. So they won't see that it's posted. They won't get any information about it until tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. So we have about 5 minutes left in the official time of this webinar. If you have any specific questions, please feel free to type them in the chat box or come off of mute. It is your choice. If you did not already, please leave your email address in the chat box. This way we can send you resources following today's webinar. Oh, okay. I apologize, Doug. I didn't see that you had left another comment until just now. So you said they're creating the Google Doc in their Google Drive and then not sharing it to the teacher in Google Classroom. They're just sending an email with the link. Oh, yes, and I will talk more about Meet in Classroom in 2 seconds. I forgot about that, so thank you for reminding me. In that case, Doug, the option is tough love. Give the kid a 0 and say you didn't submit it correctly. Like I said, tough love. Help them get that point across. Or what you can do is respond to them in an email and say, please attach to your Google Classroom. I will not penalize for late this time, something like that. If they shared it to you, you will obviously see it in your Google Drive, but it will not be in their Google Classroom for the assignment. The students, if they want to create it directly in Google Classroom, once they open the assignment, they can select add or create, and this would give them the opportunity to create the document. It would go in their Google Drive automatically, but it would also go right into their Google Classroom assignment. So I did say I was going to talk about the new integration with Meet, so I apologize for skipping that. I'm going to go over that right now. If you click on the gear up in the right corner, you will see the settings for your entire class as the teacher. Notice if I go in the students, they do not have a gear because the student can't change any settings. So you have your class name, your class section, all of that information. When you scroll down, you also have your class code, which you can reset or copy. You have your stream, which you can set that students are allowed to post to it or only the teacher can post to it. You can see right here, it says show deleted items, only the teacher can view. If you want to make sure the students aren't writing inappropriate things and then deleting it, hoping you obviously don't catch them, you can turn that on. Only you as the teacher would see it. So the question you were specifically asking about is Meet. So again, that's underneath General. And what you would do is in your class, you could copy or reset. So I'm just going to click Reset. Once I click Reset, it gives me a brand new link. That old link is now shut off. No one can use it. Where it says Visible to Students, I turn that on and I click Save. Now, if I reset my student account or refresh my student account, I will see right under my class code is a link to that Meet. That Meet is default for the class. The students are able to access it without the teacher though, so that's why I said you might want to reset it once in a while. As a teacher, you will also have the option for Meet right on the top of your assignments. And the student does as well. So it just creates that shortcut rather than having to go to the calendar to create a new event. It just builds it right into Classroom. And you, like I said, you can shut that off between classes through the settings. And if you do that, this way your students can't access it when you as the teacher are not there. It is the same Google Meet that you would use if you went directly to meet.google.com. The only difference is they're just kind of helping to save you from going to multiple websites within Google by condensing it all into one easy to find place. Any other questions today? How do you get into the student view? So because I am a certified trainer, I actually have my own account and I can create multiple users within my account, and that's how. So technically this user, my email address that says backup, that is a student, whereas my email address that says Corey is my teacher. The only reason I am able to see the student view is because techeduplearning.com is my personal website. And as a trainer, they give us the ability to create Google accounts within our website so that we can show you as the teachers how this stuff works. If you as a teacher feel that student view would be a really beneficial tool, I would highly recommend if you see the question mark on the bottom of your Google Classroom, click on that question mark and hit the option that says request a feature. Google listens to teachers. Half of the features in Google Classroom today were not there in 2014 when Google Classroom came out. And that is because teachers said, I want this. And Google said, hey, we like that idea. So click request feature. as my Google Home apparently thought I was talking to it. Click on that request a feature. It's going to let you leave a question and say, I would like a student view, and click send. Google's going to read that. And I can guarantee you, because I know one of the people at Google who reads all those comments, every single one of those emails is read by a human being. And then they're sorted into good idea, maybe ideas. Hey, I keep seeing the same idea 20 million times. So definitely leave that feedback. Just click that little question mark, send feedback, features you want, questions you have, something's not working right. Google will get back to you. Any other questions? I would like to thank everyone for attending today's webinar. I will be sticking around for a few more minutes if you do have questions that come up. We would also like to recommend you check out the webinar website because our calendar is posted. We may be changing the links for upcoming events, so please use that website as a method of knowing what website to go to view our webinars. So right now we are in Google Meet. However, we may be switching to a different platform for ease of use for the teachers and us. So if you go to this website that I am posting, yes, so you as the teacher can still get the Meet link. It would just be in the settings, not visibly displayed. So you as the teacher would have to post it into an assignment or post it on your stream, but you can still get access to it. And again, okay, but if students have been there, could they get back? That is actually something that your administrators can set. So that way, if the teacher is not in the room, the students cannot access it. That is on the back end of the Google Meet for Education. It is something that they would have to set for you. Again, I appreciate everyone's time today. Thank you all for coming. This webinar was recorded and we will be uploading it to our YouTube channel. You can get to the archive of all of our webinars by going to the visualsound.com/training remote learning website and scrolling all the way down to the bottom where you will see an option that says view archived webinars. That brings you directly to the YouTube playlist. I am going to stop the recording now. I will stay around if you have any future questions.